1012, and it gives me 1,250 feet. Exit.
Announced the arrival of the flight from Los Angeles and Chicago.
Explosion.
Well, my head is exploding as we begin today's edition of TNZ Talk on this Thursday, the 26th day of May, 2016. And we are actually recording a little later in the day today, and maybe there was some prophecy to that. Joining me now is Richard Zombeck, who is the Z in TNZ. And Z, great to be with you. I might have to change. We have to change the name of the show. You might have to start going with Anthony, because T also stands for Trump, and Trump was officially over the top today. And had we have recorded earlier in the day, we wouldn't have been able to report that.
What did I miss?
Trump has officially been coronated the nominee.
Yeah.
He has enough delegates.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, that was kind of inevitable.
Well, it was inevitable, but to make it official is, in and of itself, frightening, to be honest with you. And when I posted it to social media, I said, "Is it getting real enough yet?"
Yeah, I don't even know what to say at this point, Tony. I like the news that there's a possibility that he and Bernie might be debating.
What does that accomplish for anyone?
Well, it doesn't. I don't know that it accomplishes anything for anyone, but if Bernie beats him, it makes Hillary look horrible.
I disagree completely, because you don't beat Donald Trump. You might beat on him, but you don't beat him. Give me a scenario in which Bernie Sanders would beat Donald Trump.
Well, where his policies and Trump's lack of policies actually make sense to people.
All right, so let's go back to a conversation you and I had earlier today, where I said those on the left and those on the right aren't going to be swayed, but those in the middle will be. Now, we know one thing for absolute sure, with great certainty, that Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, massive appeal is to those on the left and those on the right. They have little or no appeal to those in the middle.
You don't think Bernie has sway with the independent voters and people in the middle?
Absolutely not, especially if you use the word sway. No, absolutely not. He would be palatable. People would vote for him. People would work for him if he were the nominee. But he doesn't curry any favor with them at this point. And in fact, one of the things that happened yesterday was the United Auto Workers endorsed Hillary Clinton. And by unanimous acclaim, according to Dennis Williams, the president of the UAW. I'm not getting that impression by looking at their Facebook page, or, in fact, my Facebook page. I don't think it was terribly unanimous, to be honest with you. But with that said, I'm thinking that, again, those that are I need to start framing this properly. Those that are pro-Bernie have one drumstick and they beat one snare drum. And you know what their singular issue is? Hillary Clinton's a crook.
Yeah.
They don't talk about Bernie's policies. They don't talk about his activism. Some of them will say, hey, Bernie's been with us for 50 years. Well, it hasn't been that long. God bless you for thinking he's that old, but he's not that old. The reality is they beat one issue to death. And they have turned and listen, the anti-Hillary people from the UAW, 8 or 9 to 1 over the pro-Hillary people, who I just suggest are probably keeping quiet because they know that this is a fight they can't win, or they don't want to get into, to be honest with you. But I honestly believe that at some level, the pro-Bernie people have really kind of lost the bigger picture because they are unwavering in their statements that they would never vote for HRC.
Yeah,
ever.
Ever. I know, and it's getting a little scary. I mean, look, you've obviously been paying attention to this way longer than I have, because you're significantly older than me. And in your advanced age.
What is that? Is that 2 years, 3 years? Is that the significance there?
Yeah, in your advanced age. No, but
when I was going poo-poo in the potty and you were just being born, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much.
No. Okay, thank you for placing me in that category. Go ahead.
Yeah. Leave it to you to go all scatological on us. You've spent a significant amount more of your life paying attention to this than I have. I've pretty much come on the scene maybe in the last 10 years. I'm a quick study, though, but historically, and I mean, do you think, and I know it's hard to answer this question because we've never seen anything like this, but I'm kind of afraid that there's a chance that Trump could win.
Well, listen, I didn't think he'd get through the first month, maybe not even the first week. So who am I to pull out a crystal ball suddenly and say, well, with great certainty or, based on past information, here's the deal. Chris Matthews was just on MSNBC, and he said Corey Lewandowski is by title the campaign manager, but make no mistake about it. Donald Trump is the candidate, the campaign manager, the pollster, the fundraiser, the policy analyst. You understand the point. There is nothing in this candidacy that we can compare it to. Literally no one. And, he also made another point. In politics, sometimes you're told to wait your turn. Marco Rubio talked about that at the beginning of the campaign. Barack Obama went through this when he ran. It's not your turn. And what they mean by that, for those that don't really follow these things, is that there are certain candidates that are told to wait in line, and when you get to the front of the line, then you get to be the nominee. Or you get your chance to be the nominee. All right? Hillary Clinton was next in line in 2008. Guess what? Didn't work out very well for her. And so, we can take a look at other candidacies. John Kerry's, John Edwards. Gary Hart was an outsider. That whole monkey business thing with Donna Rice, which made Guess Jeans more money than they ever knew what to do with, at the end of the day, wasn't about Gary Hart's turn in line. Well, that's true on the Republican side of the aisle as well, Z. Ronald Reagan, the first time he ran, it wasn't yet his turn. He didn't win. Second time, he ran against Gerald Ford. And he was told, it's not your turn yet. And he tried, he did. Ted Cruz actually pulled a Ronald Reagan when he announced Carly Fiorina as his running mate. Didn't work for Ronald Reagan, didn't work for him. The bigger point here, and I don't want to belabor it, is that in politics there is this unwritten rule about doing your time and raising your money. You do understand that once you are elected, the day you're elected, when you go after you go through orientation and the spouses go through their things, your mentor in Congress, and everybody gets a mentor. Actually, every candidate gets a mentor. Once the primaries are over, every single candidate gets a mentor. Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. And you are lectured to at that point. Do nothing but raise money from this point forward. And the day you're elected, you take advantage of that by sending out a donation request to everybody that you know that ever voted for you, smelled your underwear. I don't care who it is. And every single day, if you go to the DNC or the RNC, there are phone banking rooms that are full of members of Congress that are doing one thing and one thing only: raising money. If you do all that and you're a good player, I'm sorry, and I'm forgetting an important step here. You're not raising money for your campaign. You're not raising money for your reelection. You're raising money for the party. And if you do all these things and you wait your turn in line, you might get a shot at the presidency, Z. Donald Trump didn't do that, did he?
No.
Donald Trump was never elected dog catcher.
Donald Trump has done nothing but essentially fail, really. Did you see his vitamin thing?
No, God, no.
Yeah, he put his name on Slate. Broke this story actually yesterday, and the guy, the journalist who wrote up the story was on MSNBC yesterday talking about it. And Trump, during the recession, came up with this recession-proof, basically pyramid scheme of vitamin supplement sales. Trump Vitamin. Now, here's the thing: is you got a nice little box where you could send a urine sample, and you got customized vitamins and supplements delivered to you for $70 a month. Now, here's the thing: is that nobody that was putting these together, or Trump, really cared about what was in them. Now, obviously, the whole thing went bankrupt, but Trump put his name on it and actually spent a lot of time pimping the product, at trade shows and events and things like that. And they reached out to him for a question, and they gave him 5 days to respond, and he didn't. And they wrote up the story. And then, Trump, obviously, his campaign came out and said that this was all a lie. There are a couple things in the last couple days that bother me. And I've been ruminating a lot on all of this. Is one?
Ooh, we got a new word to add: kerfuffle, and now ruminating. I love the word ruminating. And, please ruminate.
And I've been ruminating on this, and you and I have talked about this, right? It doesn't matter what comes out about Trump. Nobody cares. And not only that, but the stuff is coming out now, and in my estimation, it's too late. Now, I agree with what you said yesterday about it's going to make a lot of difference during the general, right? I think you said that.
Yes.
But everyone's coming out and hitting him now. And
I think it's just a small entree. It's an amuse-bouche, if you will. I think that what's coming out now is just clearing the palate.
Well, see, my hope is that with things like calling Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas, and which really is kind of a racist, degrading way to go about this, saying that she's never done anything, saying that she hasn't accomplished anything, that she's the laziest person in Congress. When, in my estimation, she's one of the few people who's actually looking out for the rest of us. But here's the interesting thing, is Paul Manafort, the strategic mind behind the Trump campaign, said the following when asked who Trump or what Trump was looking for in a vice president. Get this, okay? Here's what he said, quote, "He needs an experienced person to do the part of the job he doesn't want to do. He sees himself more as the chairman of the board than even the CEO, let alone the COO." It goes on. "The campaign probably won't choose a woman or a member of a minority group," he said. "In fact, that would be viewed as pandering, I think." So,
And again, they'll get credit for being honest.
Well, so let's unpack that, shall we? So, really, Trump wants to find a vice president who's going to be able to do the president-y stuff, while Donald Trump, I don't know, tweets, makes speeches, goes on TV, hangs out on radio stations. What does that mean? What is?
By the way, I'm just kind of curious. Do you think that the Trump airplane is nicer than Air Force One?
Oh, it's probably got a gold-plated toilet seat.
All right. So I wonder if he'll use Air Force One. If that'd be a step down for him.
Well, I would think that for security purposes, he would have to, wouldn't he? I mean, they're gonna take his iPhone away. He's not going to be able to use an iPhone. They took President Obama's iPhone away. He has to be on a BlackBerry.
He's not going to be able to tweet. I mean, let's just be honest about it. A lot of the things we're saying, whether he agrees to it or not, as a matter of national security, he's not going to be able to do some of the things he thinks he will be able to do because the President of the United States, in his world and in his mind, can do whatever he wants to do.
Well, that's what he thinks. I mean, the thing, there was, not to get off the subject too, but he likes to brag about how little sleep he gets. And there was a post on Huffington Post a couple days ago that addressed just that, how fundamentally dangerous it is that the President of the United States gets very little sleep. I mean, we're dealing with a whack job.
Dude, I worry with the little sleep I get driving to and from work every day. Well, more from than to. I do. I worry about that. I think, I'm halfway home. I've got the windows rolled down. Of course, the air conditioning in my car doesn't work, and it's finally gotten hot here. And I think to myself, oh my God, I've got to be careful. I've really got to pay attention. Now, I'm not the President of the United States. I know I can go home and go to bed. And if the dog will let me sleep more than 4 hours, I can. Donald Trump's not going to have that option. What is this man? And okay, let's stop doing this because we could go on the rest of the show. A couple things that I want to share. We've got Seth Meyers from the 2015 White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, for those that have not seen the video, which is where I grabbed the audio from, you've got to watch because Donald Trump was in the audience. And Z, I don't know if you've seen that video, but Donald Trump is sitting at the Washington Post table. And the whole time, he is sitting completely erect, cradling his head between his clenched fists that are in front of him, elbows on the table, and not moving a single facial muscle.
Oh, really?
The whole time, he is dead staring at Seth Meyers. Now, wait till you hear what Seth had to say. Go ahead and hit that.
And then, of course, there's Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been saying that he will run for president as a Republican, which is surprising since I just assumed he was running as a joke. Donald Trump often appears on Fox, which is ironic because a fox often appears on Donald Trump's head. If you're at the Washington Post table with Trump and you can't finish your entree, don't worry, the fox will eat it. And if I can for a moment talk about the birther issue, when did we get so suspicious about where people were born? A USA Today poll last week said 38% of Americans think the president was definitely born in the U.S. In the same poll, in the very same poll, only 5% more said Donald Trump was definitely born in the U.S. Has it reached the point where Americans only think someone was born here if they saw it? I know I was born here, and I know my younger brother was born here. But when it comes to my older brother, I can only take him at his word. Gary Busey said recently that Donald Trump would make a great president. Of course, he said the same thing about an old rusty birdcage he found. Donald Trump owns the Miss USA pageant, which is great for Republicans because it will streamline their search for a vice president. Donald Trump said recently he has a great relationship with the blacks, though unless the blacks are a family of white people, I bet he's mistaken. I like that Trump is filthy rich, but nobody told his accent. His whole life is models and gold leaf and marble columns, but he still sounds like a know-it-all down at the OTB. Mr. Trump may not be a good choice for president, but he would definitely make a great press secretary. How much fun would that be? Kim Jong-il is a loser. His latest rally was a flop. I feel bad for Ahmadinejad. He never man wears a windbreaker. He has no class. I, on the other hand, sell my own line of ties. You can find them at Macy's in the flammable section. So it's not a strong field, and who knows if they can beat you in 2012. But I tell you who could definitely beat you, Mr. President. 2008, Barack Obama. You would have loved him.
All right. Now, I love that last line. That's why I left it in there. Z, that joke about the blacks, and unless they're a family of white people, what, of course, you have to see in the video is when Seth Meyers throws that line out there. President Obama just breaks up laughing. I mean, it's a genuine, guttural, I cannot hold it back kind of laugh. It was precious to watch. It really was. And I love, of course, that last line. The only one that could beat you was 2008 Barack Obama. You would have liked him. That's just a great line. But, you know, it's indicative of how short Donald Trump's journey has been. There isn't anything that he has said. And by the way, the whole preamble to that point was Seth Meyers being pissed off about all of the birth certificate jokes he couldn't tell because the president, 60 days before the correspondence dinner, finally produced the infamous birth certificate. Yeah. And Seth Meyers says, I'm sitting with my staff going, for months we've been writing this crap. What are you doing to us? Yeah. It was hilarious. But there was an incident, and I call it an incident, last night, where a very popular rapper by the name of T.I. thought he would make a statement because of Donald Trump.
There were two, actually, weren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we play that? Why don't we play that audio as well?
On Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah, on Jimmy Kimmel. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So much has happened since the last time you were here.
It's true, a lot.
You got more votes than any Republican candidate ever?
Ever in history.
Ever in history. You're the presumptive nominee, which enough with the presumptive already.
Right.
You taught the world about your taco balls, which was the highlight of Cinco de Mayo for me. But when you started all this, I just have to believe that you thought, this will be fun, it'll be a 4-month thing, and you never imagined it would go this far. Is that true?
Well, I've been asked that question on occasion, and I will say you never know what's going to happen. And I wanted to do it. We have such potential in the country, and I had no idea maybe it would go this quickly. I was supposed to be working, as you know, until August. They were thinking would need a second convention even. You have the convention in July.
Right.
Then they said we'd need another one in August. And in the meantime, Indiana was so good to me, New York, Pennsylvania, all of them. They were so great. And the victory was so big that I am now here and I'm watching Hillary. It was supposed to be the other way around.
Right.
And I enjoy watching her.
Are you enjoying the Hillary-Bernie struggle that is happening right now?
Well, I do. It's getting nasty. I had no idea it was going to be so nasty. Bernie.
And you hate that. You don't like that kind of.
I hate to see it.
In 2008, I want to get this right, you said you thought Hillary would make an excellent president. And as recently as 2012, you said you thought she was terrific. What did she do?
Well,
what
let
happened?
me just explain to you.
Yeah.
I will tell you. When I'm a businessman, I had a beautiful story recently where they said Trump is a world-class businessman. All over the world we're doing jobs. I speak well of everybody. If people ask me about politicians, I speak well. So when they ask me about Hillary, she's wonderful. Everybody's wonderful. And that's the way it is, and including contributions. They ask me for contributions, I give contributions.
So you were full of when you
A
said
little bit.
that.
Yeah. And so now Jimmy Kimmel finds himself with a hole in his show because rapper T.I. said, and the Donald Trump interview was a tape. They're all taped, but they taped that a little earlier than they normally tape the entire show. And so T.I. refused to appear on the show. Again, we've not seen this kind of anger and vitriol and disgust and disappointment and expressionism effort in not at this level. I mean, certainly, the Dixie Chicks had their moments, etc. Ted Nugent is Ted Nugent. But this stuff is, it's not good for us.
Yeah, well, actually,
here the president is in Vietnam having to apologize for Donald Trump's candidacy.
Yeah, I'm looking at one of the articles right now, and I guess it was Weekend and Belly, and what the rapper Belly said. I feel like the way I was raised was not able to see through all the titles in this world, from religion to race. Who is Muslim, by the way, and then went on to say, I just don't want to feel like I was part of the celebration for somebody who has beliefs that majority of us don't agree with. So,
well. There was an article, there have been actually a couple articles over the last couple of days. One of them is that evangelical Hispanics find themselves in a conundrum. There was another article that I read that said that black Muslims, conservative black Muslims, are finding themselves in a kerfuffle. When you have a candidate that supposedly represents your values, and there is here, let me ask you. Let me do this by asking you a question. By any stretch of the imagination, is Donald Trump, in your opinion, a conservative?
I don't think so, Tony.
All right. No, I'm not being. I'm not being a smartass. I'm asking you a legitimate question.
And I don't. I mean, I hesitate or hesitated. Because you put me in a bit of a kerfuffle and forced me to ruminate. No, I'm just kidding.
Very nice.
I hesitated because I still think he's faking it.
Agreed.
So
agreed.
Is he a conservative? No. I think like Jimmy Kimmel said, so you were full of it. So this was all BS. And it continues to be all BS. You reminded me of something when you brought that up, though, because I was reading an article yesterday, and it was an interesting article, and I'll post it on Facebook later today. About, and you've heard people say this, right? I'm fiscally conservative, but socially liberal.
Yes.
And the article that I read, which is very interesting, basically says that is fundamentally impossible. Because the fiscally conservative policies are exactly what make the conservative social policies possible. So, in other words, if you're fiscally conservative, everything that you are for socially can't be achieved because it holds everyone back. Fiscally,
And listen, as you know, I've worked with a lot of candidates. I've consulted a lot of candidates over my career, and I've told, more specifically, Democratic candidates, the best way to deliver that line is to say, I am fiscally responsible and socially liberal, because that can be explained. I mean, you can actually have policies that are fiscally responsible that have nothing to do with being conservative.
Right.
right? I mean, I'm all for, like, here, give you an example. I'm all for defense spending. But, you know, it's kind of like Al Gore's reinventing government, which was actually a great idea. And he did expose the $600 ashtray, etc. Although I read the riot act over that ashtray one day. The reality is we don't necessarily spend money well. And as an example, I'm listening to NPR the other day. Hi, I'm Ari Shapiro. And they were talking about funding the $1.9 billion request that President Obama has made to fight Zika. And he said, he interviewed a guest from the Centers for Disease Control that said the following. We are asking Congress to spend in total what the Defense Department spends in an hour.
Right. Right.
An hour.
Right.
$1.9 billion an hour.
Correct.
Okay, justify that one.
Correct. So here's the thing. So going back just, you know, in time, a couple of minutes here. I mean, you know, fiscally conservative, fine. But these are the things that lead to the cycle of poverty, for example. You know, things for the poor being more expensive, minimum wage, people not being able to get out of poverty, domestic violence, workplace harassment, other disenfranchisement. All of these things are a result, racist policing, prison policy, drug policy. All of those are a direct result of fiscally conservative policies. Listen, we've been really good about giving our information. We're like basically right in the middle of the show. And let me just say something real quick about that. Because for the last few shows, we've been sending people to our website to check out our support page. There hasn't been much traffic going over there. But I was thinking about this morning, is that the people that are listening to us obviously like what they're hearing because we're getting a lot of people re-listening to us. So share us. Share us on Twitter. Share us on Facebook. Put a link up. If that's all you can do, that's fine. But get your friends and the people you know. If this is what you like to listen to, let them know that this is what you like to listen to and that they should be listening to this too. And share our link on Facebook. We put the link up every day on TNZ Talk Facebook page. It's got the show embedded into it. They can listen to it right from Facebook. The same thing on Twitter, on the TNZ Talk Twitter feed. Every time we record the show, I put it up. It's embedded. You can listen to it directly from Twitter and from Facebook, and it's an easy thing to do. Just click share at the bottom and share it with your entire network. That would do us a lot of good. And we would be most appreciative.
Beyond most appreciative, but still want money. Still want money.
Still want money.
You know, the bottom line is $5 a month. And listen, I've had periods of my life where I didn't have $5 a month. I really have. So I understand that, especially if you have a family, especially if you're struggling, especially if you've been in foreclosure. There are a lot of reasons that $5 can't appear. But for those of you that just think, well, they're going to be there anyway, that's true, but I can't tell you for how long. I really can't. I mean, we're not looking to walk away. We're not drawing a line in the sand and saying unless we raise X amount of dollars by this date, we're not saying that. But why should we have to?
Right, and at some point it becomes an expensive hobby.
Absolutely, yeah. It actually it takes more of your time, and you've been very gracious since I had to go out and get a job, picking up the slack. Anyway, there's some other stuff I want to get to, including an upcoming race, primary race in California. And at one point, Bernie Sanders' campaign had made the decision, not to do any television advertising. But they changed their tune when they had a better April than they thought they would. Now, they didn't think that their May fundraising would bottom out, and it has. But at the time, they had themselves some cash, as every campaign does, has to make a decision. So they did put an ad together. And this is what the Bernie Sanders ad that's now actively running in California sounds like, exactly what it sounds like.
What choice do Californians have in this election? The biggest one of all. You have the power to choose a new direction for the Democratic Party, to break the back of a corrupt system of campaign finance that keeps a rigged economy in place, to stand up to Wall Street and make the wealthy pay their fair share, to fight for tuition-free public colleges and universities. California, it's a long way to Washington, but you can send them a message they can't ignore. I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
All right, I'm not quite sure the message he was delivering there because there are multiple messages mixed into that 30-second ad. A rigged economy. You can send a special message to Washington. Is Washington listening?
Is anyone listening?
Well, I think there are people listening, of course. But, I just... Go back to something I said yesterday. He's still delivering the same message over a year after starting the campaign. And we now see the Clear Politics average. We see him starting to lose support, Real Clear Politics average, in a pretty substantial way. And what that is, the Real Clear Politics, for those that aren't aware, I should always explain this. It's an aggregate of all the polls, all of the major polling. So it's not reliant on one or another. It is an average of all the serious polling that happens. And although in some polls it shows Clinton and Sanders neck and neck, in some it shows him up, the reality is the Real Clear Politics average shows him losing 13% of his support over the last 60 days. That's a lot of support to lose.
Yeah.
And I mean, the point of my saying all that is that I appreciate his followers, using your words, doing what they're doing. I appreciate Senator Sanders not going gently into that good night, nor should he. But there was more than one way to do it. In damaging the brand of the Democratic Party and damaging the candidate in Hillary Clinton, I just don't think was the right direction to take.
Do you think he's causing damage at this point?
Yeah, I do. At this point, yes. A month ago, no. But, in politics, as you're well aware, things can change overnight. They just did. Donald Trump was just given the gift of the nomination by one single delegate. And what did he do? He assembled a group of journalists who he made wait for 2 hours to listen to him talk. Nonsense. Pablum. He's talking right now. He's doing a press conference right now. Can't even imagine what the F that guy's saying right now. President Obama. Let me give you an example because I just saw the crawl. President Obama has said that the world leaders are rattled by Donald Trump. Trump's response to that is if world leaders are rattled, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and when he said that, I kind of that's what I was expecting. That's exactly what we would hear. Well, that's good. That's good that they're rattled because we're the best country in the world. They should be afraid of us. There's something to fear. Hey, Tony. So how does Donald Trump change a light bulb?
How?
Look, we can change the light bulb. That I'll tell you. We're changing it, okay? And I get that from so many people. They ask me, is the light bulb dead? And the light bulb is in trouble. That I can tell you, okay? It's in trouble, but we're going to change it, okay?
Yeesh.
Sorry.
No, it's expected. It truly is sadly expected. Again, I just want to be very clear that, I go back to Mitt Romney. I go back to George W. Bush twice. I go back to George Herbert Walker Bush. I think about the very first campaign I got involved with as a Democrat was Jimmy Carter's. And there was a guy running that year by the name of John Anderson. And he was a quiet, soft-spoken, deliberate guy who had a lot of really good things to say. There was still a lot of anti-war sentiment in the country. Vietnam was still very fresh in the mind of a lot of people. Conscientious objectors, including myself, had some serious issues with the way the government was running. And Jimmy Carter was a peacenik. Jimmy Carter was the kind of guy that just talked openly and honestly about hostility. And he talked about prayer and the importance of having a good religious foundation, but at the same time, not vilifying anybody if that wasn't the path they wanted to take. He was open to discussion, and we know now, as the peacemaker that he was and still is, that there's something to be said for a softer, gentler candidacy. In fact, I think John Anderson helped Jimmy Carter in a way by being a softer, kinder kind of guy. Unfortunately, Ronald Reagan was bombastic. Ronald Reagan was a successful governor from New York. He had helped California. He had helped turn around their economy. He was still considered by many a friend of unions because he was at one point, as you know, the president of the Screen Actors Guild. The irony of that, of course, is Ronald Reagan was responsible for the decaying and destruction of the foundation of organized labor in this country. The architect of it, in fact. Ronald Reagan did more to ruin the foundation of this great country, than any president in the history of this great land. And Donald Trump could be 10 times worse.
Well, and here's what gets me though, right? Is for 8 years we've heard the Republicans rail that Obama wants to talk to foreign leaders, that he's not just going in and bombing them. 8 years we've heard this, that, he has no plan. In the meantime, we have better allies than we did under Bush. We have the Iran deal. Say what you want about it. It's a deal. And then Trump says he's going to go talk to Kim Jong-un, and the Republicans go, oh, well, that's a terrific idea. Fantastic. Absolutely. What? How come nobody thought of this before? And, their hypocrisy is, I don't know, I would say astounding, but it's certainly not surprising.
No. And, we're going to keep our pledge today, by the way, to do one non-election story, and we've got one to share with you. It's disgusting. It's about bigotry and hatred, but it's there.
Oh, great.
Well, it's the bathroom story. But Before we get to that, what do you make of Paul Ryan still being the only Republican member of the GOP leadership that has not endorsed Donald Trump yet? What do you make of that?
Well, he hasn't endorsed him, but he's kind of acquiescing to a degree, don't you think?
No, he's not. He made a comment day before yesterday that Donald Trump would not, I want to emphasize, would not define the platform for the convention. So, no, he's not acquiescing.
Okay.
The candidate normally defines the platform. Now, we're seeing on the Democratic side that's not going to happen either, because we won't have a presumptive nominee until it's too late, and these things need to be done in advance. And by now, we normally would have had a presumptive nominee on both sides. So with that said, what is Paul Ryan? I mean, Paul Ryan was quoted today as saying, I talked to Donald last night. We had a wonderful conversation. But that's not an endorsement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he's being cautious, right? And as Speaker of the House, I think he has to be cautious. And also, I think he's seeing a lot of his colleagues in Congress.
Oh my God! I'm sorry. Do you know that when Donald Trump was asked yesterday what it would cost for him to debate Bernie Sanders, and he said, "Oh, I could put a number to it." I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Remember when he said that yesterday?
Yeah. He
put a number to it. If Bernie wants to debate, it's going to cost him $10 to $15 million.
But I also saw that his campaign is saying that he was just joking.
No, he just repeated it.
Yeah.
At this press conference where he is now the official nominee.
The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. I mean, his campaign released earlier today that he was just joking, that he wasn't going to debate Bernie Sanders, or as he calls him, Crazy Bernie.
Yes, I'm sorry. You were in the middle of something.
Yeah, that's okay.
Paul Ryan. You said something that go ahead. I'll let you finish.
I think Ryan is seeing his colleagues get challenged in their home races because of their support of Trump, and I don't think he wants to be one of them.
Well, he does have a primary opponent, and he is a Tea Party guy. I don't think he's doing very well. They don't poll in Wisconsin because, frankly, they don't do it. I don't think his opponent has raised nearly, I know he hasn't raised nearly as much money as Paul Ryan has. I'm not so sure that Paul Ryan isn't still holding his cards close to his chest as somebody that may be nominated from the floor of the convention.
Yeah, we'll see riots if that happens, Tony.
Now, I got to tell you, Paul Ryan has done a lot of things in the House lately that stink, that smell, that pander to the far right of the party and the Koch brothers. I think he's leaving his options open, Z.
Could be.
Just saying. All right, well, I got this first from the New York Times yesterday, so we'll give them credit. There are 11 states that are now suing the federal government over these transgender bathroom bills. Let me share with you, as this just broke in Michigan yesterday, that one of our members of the state house introduced yesterday a bathroom bill. Now, why does he do that? Well, we'll talk about it on the other side. But this is what the New York Times reported in a video that was on their website.
2 hours ago, the state of Texas filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Education and the Department of Justice regarding their directives that open up all school bathrooms to people of both sexes. We're taking this action to protect Herald Independent School District, which on Monday night fulfilled a responsibility to their community by adopting a bathroom policy that puts the safety of their students first. Unfortunately, the policy placed them at odds with those federal directives which were handed down earlier this month. That means the district is in the crosshairs of the Obama administration, which has maintained it will punish anyone who doesn't comply with their orders. Herald ISD is now facing legal action or the loss of school funding, all for enacting a policy to protect their students. By forcing through his policies by executive action, President Obama has excluded the voice of the people. We stand today to ensure that those voices are heard. Make no mistake, this is no reinterpretation of terms. It's an entire rewrite of law. And that is constitutionally the purview of Congress, not the President of the United States.
don't even know where to begin with that story, but to say this. Just like the very conservative lawmaker from the northernmost parts of Michigan and what he did yesterday, for him it's about re-election. He lives in a very conservative district. I don't think he actually believes that the bill will get a reading, let alone a hearing, but it may. But why hurt people in the process? And this idea, listening to that audio, I just want to know if the Attorney General in Texas, who was the gentleman that was speaking, when he says that the voices of the people must be heard, if that's all the people or just white people or just straight people, I just don't know the answer to that.
I mean that we're even talking about this, and I don't mean you and I. I mean we have to talk about this because it's there, but that we're in this country. The level, the level of hate that this has brought up, the level of fear. I mean, and there are times when I have to wonder if the conspiracy theories. When you see something like this, and then on Facebook you see they're bringing this up because they're hiding other things, right? You have to wonder if they are, because this is really a solution in search of a problem. This has never been a problem before. None of the stuff that they're saying around this is true. None of this is real, and we're talking about people in bathrooms. That's the main conversation in this country right now.
Well, and let me tell you that when I posted this story to Facebook either yesterday or this morning, even somebody that agrees with you and I got it 100% wrong. Nowhere do I mention pedophilia. Nowhere does that mention pedophilia. Yet this woman goes on a rant about how transgender people are not pedophiles. And, goes on a rant. 8-9 paragraphs worth. And so I normally don't comment beyond my initial comment. Normally. Today was an exception as well, and I said to her in the post, of course this isn't about pedophilia. It never was, and it never will be, and that you even think that it is means they're winning. Because they're now getting people to bring up the ugliest part of the mistruth. Now people are automatically defending something that isn't even being uttered. How good are they? They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. Anyway, we don't have enough time. I was going to say we have just enough time to play Congressman Dan Kilde's stuff, but we actually don't have enough time to do that. So why don't we wrap it up here, since your fuse is probably at this point about as short as mine. Oh, by the way, Donald Trump has said during his press conference, just to bring everybody up to date, you'll of course probably all know this, at least for those of you that follow politics closely, that we're going to, quote unquote, take care of terrorism, and he wants to be energy independent. Well, good luck with that, dude.
Is he explaining how that's going to happen?
No, of course not. And I don't know. I don't have the TV on, and I'm going to guess that there isn't a single journalist that's saying to him, how you going to do that, Donald?
Right. Let me stick a microphone in your face and just say whatever the hell you want. Just here you go.
Now, here's the difference between MSNBC, and there are others, but between MSNBC and Fox News. If this were President Obama, or if this were he that had just won the nomination, they would have covered it for 5 minutes and gone back to talking to Judge Napolitano about something. But MSNBC is going to stick with this no matter how long it takes, see?
Yeah, it's getting disgusting.
It is disgusting. Anyway, Let's remind people one more time, and I'll be the money beggar, and then you can be the more rational voice.
I'll beg for money.
Send some freaking money.
I'll beg for money. You can advertise on our show, too. You can sponsor us. You can be a patron by going to the Patreon page that can be found off of the subscribe link on our website at tnztalk.com. Also, you can find out all the ways you can contact us, follow us, friend us, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, all of that is on the website, as well as a contact form and a phone number that you can call to leave us a voicemail that we may or may not play on the show. tnztalk.com. Tony?
Yeah, and the phone number is 559-TZ-TALK-1. That's 559-898-2551. I'm going to leave you, Z, in the audience with two more Trumpisms from today's press conference, which is not over yet. Elizabeth Warren has, quote-unquote, a big mouth, and the $10 to $15 million that Bernie would have to pay him to debate would go to charity, just like the money he's not sending to veterans. We'll leave it there. I want to thank everybody on behalf of myself, Tony Trupiano, and Richard Zombeck. And as always, we ask that you be well.
Oh yeah, can you feel it? Just over the credits, just riffing now. Words and chords. Not the poetry and the real thing, but not bad for an ad-lib. Not good, but... And it's not long enough, so just do a little bit more. And that's nearly done. That's the final credit there. That's the end.